2 weeks ago in Pomona, California, there were urgent messages left for the Top Fuel heavy hitters when Shelly Anderson won the NHRA season opener, with old-timer Rance McDaniel starring as runner-up. Open letter to Eddie Hill. Winston Chance can't smoke the tires. Mr. Bernstein, you have a voicemail about needing 4 clean passes. And Joe Amato, inquiring minds want to know, can you go quick repeatedly? Casey Hollywood Spurlock's win has likewise filled the funny car department's inbox. Hollywood himself sending the first message with his win. Al Hoffman, your plane load of new parts ready for immediate use. Grapevine for Chuck Etchell, still waiting for 4-second passes. Here's a FedEx from outer space for John Force, and it's ticking. International fax to Mr. Okazaki, return home. Cult status as American Basher now assured. When Warren Johnson won the opener against Darrell Alderman, all Pro Stock drivers got their messages loud and clear. First is an email to Warren from Darrell. I'm back. Carrier pigeon from Kurt to Dan Warren. Send more engines, quick. And from all of us to Scott Jeffrey on Just Do It. Today, the $19 million 18-event NHRA Winston Championship Drag Racing Series presents same-day coverage of the 10th Annual Ford Quality Care Nationals from Firebird Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona. It was just about a month ago, back in the middle of January during preseason testing, that a message was sent from here at Firebird Raceway that resounded throughout the drag racing world. It was the quickest elapsed time in Top Fuel history. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClellan, and welcome to the Ford Quality Care Nationals here at Firebird Raceway. This is normally known as the Valley of the Sun, but cloudy conditions have prevailed all weekend, uncharacteristically cool, and that has led to the quickest field in the history of the sport. For more on that and other stories, here's my good pal, Steve Evans.
Well, Dave, as you know, 1994 marks the 3rd year for the McDonald's Top Fuel dragster on the NHRA Winston Pro Tour. You'll recall their debut season in '92 had some good success. Won the U.S. Nationals with driver Ed McCullough. 1993, virtually nothing to write home about for this team. And nobody blamed McCullough, but sometimes you just got to change the recipe. And new driver Corey McClanahan has brought a spark to this team, along with a new engine combination from crew chief Lee Beard. 2 weeks ago, the season opener in Pomona, California, #1 qualifier, Corey Mack in the Big Mac. And here in Phoenix yesterday, Saturday's qualifying, how about a brand new national record for the team, 4.75 seconds, and a career best speed for Corey. Is it as much fun to break your own national record as it is somebody else's?
It's more fun, especially when you can go in with a fresh team and do it the second race out. I am so proud of those guys, Lee Beard and the whole crew. And Larry Miner giving me the opportunity to drive this McDonald's car. I'm just happy to be here.
You've still got a shot at a speed record to back up that 304.
Yeah, we really like to do it. It kind of hesitated in the middle there, then kicked it in the butt in the end. And boy, that's what it's all about, right?
Couldn't have hesitated too much. Well, it's all smiles, as you might imagine, in the McDonald's pits, but over in reigning Winston champ Eddie Hill's Top Fuel operation, a lot of this going on. Scratch in their head. They did not qualify well in Pomona, got beat first round smoking the tires, and here on virtually every qualifying run, same problem. They don't know how much power they have because the tires smoke before they get down the track far enough to find out. Everybody's talking about John Force in funny car, not because he's dominating like he did last year, but because he is struggling. Did not qualify well in Pomona, got beat first round by Kenji Okazaki. Here in qualifying, he had some blower problems that actually damaged the body. John, that's a lot of body damage from a small little blower pop. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, pretty exciting. We got some new stuff in here we're trying, and she shook real hard, and I pedaled her, and I hit her, and she went and boom, banged, but that's kind of the way we race, and we like it that way.
But everybody in the pits agrees John Force will be back, and probably in a hurry. In Pro Stock, well, when the Mopar team announced they would run 2 Dodge automobiles, the Daytonas, bringing back Darrell Alderman, a lot of so-called experts said, well, they're not deep enough in parts and talent to do that. Yeah, humble pie time, guys. The Dodges rule the roost.
Alderman and Jeffrey on the #1 and 2 qualifiers, respectively. The 1994 NHRA Ford Quality Care Nationals is being brought to you by Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. And here is Al Hoffman, and he certainly has something to celebrate. We'll have more on that later when we talk funny cars. Welcome back to Firebird International Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona, in the 10th annual running of the NHRA Ford Quality Care Nationals. Just a little bit earlier, we posed the question, can Joe Amato run fast? But more importantly, can he do it with consistency? I think that question has been answered at this race. He qualified with a brilliant 475. That put him number 2 in the field, and in eliminations, he has been running very strong. Joe had a lackluster season last year, and he gives all the credit to his new crew chief, Jimmy Prock, and the guys that put this race car together. With one event completed in the 18-race series, let's take a look at the Winston point standings. After her win at Pomona, Shelly Anderson the leader, followed by Rance McDaniel, Pat Austin. Joe Amato is 4th, then Mike Judd. Eddie Hill, the reigning Winston champion, would just as soon forget this weekend in Phoenix. Believe it or not, Eddie Hill did not qualify. This was his 3rd qualifying effort, and the results here the same as they were in the first 2. Instantaneous loss of traction, up in smoke went the nuclear banana. Then, in his final qualifying effort, Eddie Hill was in the near lane. He and his crew chief, Bussy Carter, had it almost right, then the engine let go.
Lenny, you can barely handle a first-round loss at Pomona. That happened the year before, but a DNQ here as the defending champ has got to make you sick.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to put into words how bad we feel right now. We sure had an awful lot of stuff go wrong this year already. What can I say? We're going to work hard, and we'll be back.
We know you will.
Tension and depression showed on Eddie Hill, both on his face and in his voice, after that final qualifying effort. 2 of the heavy hitters met in round number 1 of Top Fuel. Joe Amato, the number 2 qualifier, and Kenny Bernstein, who debuted a brand new car at this race and had lots of problems. He had a 4.90 in qualifying. That put him 15th, earned him the right to face 475 Joe Amato. And Amato now has run 475 on 2 racetracks. He did it first 2 weeks ago at Pomona. Here in qualifying, he ran it to qualify 2nd. Bernstein ended up with lots of problems, as our onboard camera showed in that first round race. It was Amato winning the race at a 476 at 208 miles an hour. Meantime, the runner-up in Pomona, Rance McDaniel, defeated Clayton Harris to advance to round number 2. Rance had been the picture of consistency at Pomona until the final round, running low 480s, and he matched that in qualifying here in Phoenix with a great 483. That was good for number 7 in the quickest field in the history of Top Fuel racing. At the flash of the green light, Rance McDaniel got an ever so slight advantage, but Joe Amato just drove away.
Well, Steve, you know, we're in the semifinals and we got them valuable Winston points going, but Jimmy Prock and the team's doing a good job. When the sun came out, we just got a little nervous. We backed the power up a little bit, just trying to get enough to get it down there and win. And Rance's team's a good team, so we just don't want to take anything away from them and underestimate them.
That win put Joe Amato into the semifinals. His competition was decided between the next 4 cars. Michael Brotherton topped Jim Head in the first round, while Pat Austin defeated Ed McCulloch. It was back in 1992 that Pat won this race. He qualified here with a fine 483, good for the number 6 spot. Michael Brotherton, acquiring the services over the winner of Larry Meyer as his crew chief, qualified in the number 3 spot with a great 479. In round number 2, Austin and Brotherton met with Pat in the near lane. He held the lane choice coming into this round. In fact, he joined the 470 club by running a 479 in his beating of Ed McCulloch. Here, he came from behind to defeat Brotherton.
Pat, the fans in the stands are enjoying this newfound sunshine. The racetrack is not. That was a good job.
Thanks. It's it's just a pleasure to be in the second round. It's just a pleasure to qualify at these tough, shows.
484. Maybe that's all this track was ready to handle.
Well, that was great. That was part of our plan. We just wanted to come back and maybe slow down a little bit because usually the track isn't as good the second round, and it just puts the Syntec Oldsmobile down and makes sure to bring shoes in the semis, and that's where we're going.
See you then.
Thanks.
So that sets up one of our semifinal pairs, Joe Amato against Pat Austin. Both of them we know capable of running in the 470s. On the other side of the ladder, in the first round, Shelly Anderson was upset by the number 13 qualifier Mike Dunn. While Connie Coletta was enjoying the best day of his career, he defeated rookie Bob Vanderdrift Jr. Mike Dunn had qualified 13th at a 488. This was a very tough field, so it's no shame to be upset. Connie Coletta had qualified 5th with the quickest time of his long career at a 482. Dunn had the lane choice in round number 2 and watched his advantage disappear.
Well, Connie, first half of the track, you saw a lot of that salsa car.
I know it. He was out there in front of me.
It was a good race in 83 to an 86.
83 to 86? I had 83?
You betcha.
What kind of speed it run?
Not quite 300 again.
It don't look like it would have.
No, it doesn't. In fact, they're going to have to do a bit of wrenching on this one.
It was in round number 1 that Connie Coletta became the newest member of the Slick 50 300-mile-an-hour club. He's now in the semifinals. His opponent reached that level of competition this way. Corey McClenathan defeated Tommy Johnson Jr. in the first round, while Scott Coletta beat Don Prudhomme with a great time. His quickest ever, a 476. Of course, Corey Mack had the quicker time of the weekend. He set the national record at 4.75 seconds, while the world's fastest driver had yet to top 300 miles an hour here in Phoenix. Scott had the opportunity to set up a father and son confrontation in the semifinals. Connie, his dad, already there, but Scott was up against a juggernaut called the McDonald's Dragster, driven by Corey McClenathan. In one of the great races of the day, Corey Mack won it.
Corey, without the pressure of being a car owner, I see a marked improvement in your driving.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. I want to do my job for these guys, and I want to win races, and you don't have competitors like Scott Coletta and Dick LaHaye around for nothing. They're out for our throat. We're #1 qualifier. We have to do good out here.
So that sets up our semifinals here at the Ford Quality Care Nationals. Corey McClenathan, the new national record holder, against Connie Coletta and Joe Amato. Hot on the heels of that national mark, takes on the young superstar Pat Austin. Pulling up into the staging lanes, Corey McClenathan. He's ready for his race against Connie Coletta. Top Fuel semifinals coming up next. Back at Firebird Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona, in the Ford Quality Care Nationals, Corey McClenathan getting ready for his semifinal round confrontation with the old veteran Connie Coletta. And this may be a tougher race than you might imagine, because Connie Coletta is revitalized. His new crew chief, Tim Richards, has wrenched him already to the quickest elapsed time in his history of 482, and to the latest member of the 300-mile-an-hour club from Slick 50. Corey Mack in the McDonald's Dragster had the choice of lanes. He selected the far side of the track. Coletta with the American International Airways car, giving him all he could handle, though. But Corey Mack, look at this. The quickest elapsed time in the history of drag racing. A 4.74 second elapsed time at 298 miles an hour. And Corey Mack has just broken his own record again. Our other pair of the final 4 getting ready to go. That is Jimmy Brock reaching inside the cockpit of the Team Valvoline car as Joe Amato gives us a thumbs up. Amato, having run exceptionally well in qualifying at a 475, has the lane choice here by just thousandths of a second. 3 of them, in fact, over Pat Austin. Austin ran a 484 with a 3. Amato had a 4.840 in the previous round. That let him select his lane. Steve?
Well, they say the rich get richer. Here at Firebird, the quick get quicker. Another national record of 474.
You gotta be kidding. I don't believe it. These guys, these McDonald's, these guys are something else, man.
Who are you?
What a bunch of characters. These guys make me run so good, make me look so good. I have to do my job, keep making those lights, and make them look good, too.
It's been printed here and there that's the old Jimmy Prock combination. That's not true.
No, it's not. And anybody that thinks any different can come on down. We'll take the motor apart and show them.
That's a Lee Beard engine, bud.
And Steve Lee is certainly the master of this racetrack on this given day. But the question still remains, what about Jimmy Brock, Corey Mack's former crew chief? What can he do for Joe Amato? Earlier, Steve had a chance to take a look at the good luck charms of Joe Amato.
Every Joe Amato fan is aware of his belief in Snoopy power. He wouldn't drive without his Snoopy underwear, and this year he has 2 Snoopy characters on the car. First of all, because of Joe's love of pasture pool, we have golfing Snoopy. And in honor of his new young crew chief, Jimmy Prock, who's a longtime member of the unofficial Bad Boys Club, we have heavy metal Snoopy. And the way Joe sees it, if golfing Snoopy doesn't drive him out of the field, maybe Bad Boy Snoopy will punch him out.
He may need both, drive him and punch him, because Pat Austin at the wheel of the Castrol Syntec Dragster has done remarkable things this weekend, running a 4.79 in the first round. Remember, the difference on paper as these two approach the staging beams, only 0.003 of a second in favor of Joe. Austin hazing the tires, and Joe Amato advances to the final round. A huge cloud of smoke coming out of Pat Austin's engine, but he keeps the car under control. Amato's elapsed time, 4:85 at 298 miles an hour. What a match. Number 1 qualifier Corey McLenithan against number 2 qualifier Joe Amato. Corey Mack holding the lane choice in the championship round. Let's go to Steve.
You got your work cut out for you, buddy, racing Corey Mack in the final to come.
Hey, Steve, anytime you can get to the final, I'm happy. We're Fun Meter's at full throttle right now. Just real happy to be in the final, and, Jimmy and the guys can just go for it. The sun will be down, it'll be cooler. This baby can run a 4.75 or better. Stand back.
You heard it here first.
Steve, we'll find out real quick how good Joe Amato is as a predictor. We'll be back with more action from the Ford Quality Care Nationals in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody, to Firebird International Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona, and the 10th annual running of the Ford Quality Care Nationals. If drag racing didn't get the message 2 weeks ago about pro stock racing came up at the Winter Nationals, it looks like 1994 is going to boil down to a classic titanic battle between the Dodges and the Oldsmobiles. And the Oldsmobiles, of course, driven by the Johnsons. Dad Warren won the Winston Championship a year ago, and son Kurt finished second to his dad, and in doing so, established a standard of excellence for the entire family. Now let's take a look at the point standings. Dad Warren's in the lead, followed by Darrell Alderman in the Dodge. Kurt Johnson's now third. Scott Jeffrey on in the other Dodge is fourth, and Larry Morgan rounds out the top 5. In round number 1 of competition here at Phoenix, Kurt raced Steve Schmidt and won, while Mark Powick met up against the Pontiac of Jerry Ekman, and it was Powick who prevailed. Then in round number 2, Powick, who had qualified number 5 with a great 7:15 in the Summit Racing Oldsmobile, had the opportunity to race the Oldsmobile Cutlass of Kurt Johnson from Lawrenceville, Georgia, and sponsored by Mark Christopher Olds of Ontario, California. Remember, it was Kurt who went on his head here a year ago. And you talk about peaks and valleys, it was Mark Powick winning this race just 12 months ago. A tremendously close race, and Kurt Johnson prevailed by 100th of a second.
Oh boy, what a drag race.
We got by that nasty second round we had here last year anyways.
18 to a 19.
Wow, it's definitely tight out there. Heat's gotten to the track, and we just haven't been able to hit our butt all weekend. Hopefully we'll have some luck here.
Those Dodges are going to play a part in your future before this is over.
Oh, they're going to have a problem with the Oldsmobiles, I believe.
I love it.
And so does every drag racing fan in the world. Also in round number 1, the low qualifier Darrell Alderman defeated the number 16 car Jerry Haas, while David Rampy, who had qualified 8th, and Larry Morgan squared off. Morgan won with a whole shot. Alderman used a track record time of 7:07 to qualify in the top spot, while Larry Morgan had run a 7:17 in his qualifying effort in the Castrol Super Clean Oldsmobile. Alderman had the lane choice in round number 2 based on a 7:11 time in the first round. A 7:21 was the best that Morgan could muster in defeating Rampy. We were on board in the Castrol Super Clean car as Morgan hit the button and Darrell Alderman pulled the levers in the Dodge. Out the window you can see Larry Morgan. Alderman won by half a car length.
7:15.
Yeah, I got a little loose. I knew my time was off that time.
You can fix that.
Yeah, I think so. The boys at the trailer will tune her up for me.
Alderman was runner-up to Warren Johnson 2 weeks ago at Pomona. Now he is in the semifinals and facing the same man he did at Pomona, Kurt Johnson. The other side of the ladder, Scott Jeffreyon, the driver of the number 2 qualified Dodge, defeated Ray Franks, while Gary Brown met up with Mike Thomas in a battle of Oldsmobile cutlasses, and Brown prevailed. Scott Jeffreyon had run 7:08 in qualifying, only 100th of a second slower than his teammate, Darrell Alderman. That put Scott in the number 2 spot. Gary Brown qualified with a 7:18. He matched it in his first round win, and Scott Jeffreyon ran 7:08 in round number 1 to match his qualifying time. That gave him the choice of lanes here in round number 2, and we had the opportunity to ride on board. So Scott matched the winning performance of Darrell, and the 2 Dodges moved to the semifinals.
7:14, that's mighty good in the heat of the day.
Sure is, you know, and the main thing is we're not shaking out here in Phoenix. They've done an excellent job at this facility over the winter. It's a real smooth racetrack, and these 2 Mopar Parts Dodge Daytonas are looking good right now.
Gonna run into some Oldsmobiles here pretty quick.
It always happens, don't it?
That 7:14 was the quickest of the round thus far in Pro Stock competition. In the first round, Warren Johnson, the number 3 qualifier, defeated Mark Osborne, while Jim Yates in his Pontiac disposed of the Ford Quality Care Thunderbird of Bob Glidden. Johnson had used a 7:09 to occupy that 3rd spot and held the lane choice in round number 2 against Jim Yates. Yates, having one of the best days of his career, had qualified at a 7:15 and actually improved in the first round, running a 7:14 with the Dynamax Pontiac. The choice of lanes put Johnson and the GM Performance Parts Oldsmobile in the lane nearest the camera in round 2. WJ had a giant advantage off the starting line and actually ran quicker, a 7:15 to a 7:18.
Well, a 7:15 sounds pretty good until I tell you lost lane choice to the dreaded Dodge at Jeffrey on next round.
I never heard of a dreaded Dodge, just dreaded Oldsmobiles.
You're going to handle them?
No problem.
Confidence definitely prevailed with Warren Johnson, and a wink to our camera. He will be racing Scott Jeffreyon in a rematch of what happened 2 weeks ago at Pomona. Same for the other side of the ladder in the Final 4, Darrell Alderman against Kurt Johnson, and in both cases, the Dodges hold lane choice. We're in the pit area of Corey McLenathan, that's Lee Beard, the crew chief on the McDonald's dragster, and he's been working some magic this weekend. We'll be right back. Just outside of Phoenix, Arizona is the motorsports complex known as Firebird International Raceway. And here is a view of the sprawling grounds and the huge crowd that is jammed in for this Ford Quality Care Nationals. We're in the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. That is Kurt Johnson at the wheel of the Mark Christopher Oldsmobile. Alongside of him, we're inside the car during the burnout. That is Darrell Alderman driving the Mopar Parts Dodge Daytona. The Wayne County Speed Shop crew has had quite a chore on their hands. Earlier, Steve took a look at it.
2 weeks ago in Pomona, the Darrell Alderman Dodge had an intermittent miss. In fact, it may have cost him that final round win over Warren Johnson. Rather than replace one component at a time trying to find it, they stripped this puppy and replaced everything electrical, starting with the distributor and the coils. Moving into the cockpit, they completely overhauled it, replaced the MSD ignition system, every switch, every gauge, the batteries, the starter, even the fuel pump for good measure. The miss is gone. Alderman qualified number 1, is terrorizing the competition, who hopes it comes back.
The question remains, though, what was the problem? They'll never know, will they, when they changed everything, but it solved the difficulty, and now Darrell Alderman and Kurt Johnson square off for the second race in a row. It was at Pomona just 2 weeks ago that Alderman was able to defeat Kurt Johnson and advance to the finals, where he was laid away by Kurt's dad, Warren. Look at the concentration on Darrell's face as he approaches the staging beam. From Kurt Johnson to take the win, a 7:11 elapsed time. His speed, 193 miles an hour. Kurt was trailing about a half a car length back at a 7:16. You are seeing double. This is the other half of the Mopar team. This Dodge Daytona is driven by Scott Jeffrey on his opponent, as it was 2 weeks ago at Pomona. Warren Johnson at the wheel of the GM Performance Parts Oldsmobile. Here, Jeffrey on holds the lane choice by 100th of a second, those times coming in the second round of competition. Down at the far end of the racetrack, Steve Evans has had a chance to catch up with Darrell Alderman.
Darrell, I don't know if you're a gambler, but it doesn't get better than 7-11.
Yeah, I figured that was a good run there because it stayed hooked up good and low in second, and when it does that, it's usually a good ET in the little Dodge.
193.
Yeah, it's hanging right in there, 193 today. It's a little hotter.
Would you like a little revenge on Warren Johnson for 2 weeks ago?
I tell you what I'd like. I'd like for Scott Jeffrey on to win this next round, and it'd be an all-Mopar final.
And it would still be a fist fight.
Yes, it would.
We know the dreams of Darrell Alderman, but there's something standing in the way. The spoiler, Warren Johnson. While Scott Jeffrey on has got the lane choice, you know that the favorite's role has got to go to the blue and white Oldsmobile based on past performances. 2 years in a row, reigning Winston champion, inside the car with Scott Jeffrey on. Neither driver anxious to stage. Now then, the RPMs begin to come up and they move into the staging beams. And Scott Jeffrey on pulls off the win. Darrell Alderman's dream comes true. Scott Jeffrey on in a lap time of 7:13 at 193 miles an hour. Warren Johnson trailed with a 7:14. WJ had the advantage, so slight off the starting line. At the finish line, you can look at the amount of distance between the front of these two cars as they cross the finish line in time. That is 6,000th of a second, and Scott Jeffrey on is the winner. He will go against his teammate, Darrell Alderman, in the final, and Darrell, with his 7-11, has the choice of lane. Steve?
Can anybody out there remember an old Dodge Pro Stock final? I can't. How about you?
I don't know, but I think there's going to be plenty of them this year. We got an answer to Brand X this year, and it's named Mopar.
Darrell was down here wishing you into the final round. That'll stop now.
Tell you, he's a heck of a guy. We're competitors this round, though.
All right. 7:13, Scott.
That is truly a happy man, Scott Jeffrey on. Welcome back to the NHRA Ford Quality Care Nationals at Firebird International Raceway in truly the Valley of the Sun. The weather has definitely taken a turn for the better. It's warmed up, and this team is red hot. We're talking about Chuck Etchells, a 5:05 to dominate in qualifying. You remember Etchells, the first funny car driver in the fours? Well, this is a team in transition. Over the winter, Tim Richards exited as crew chief, and his hand-picked successor, none other than John Medlin, the crew chief that had served so well for Don the Snake Prudhomme. Consistent performances are coming out of Etchells and the Kendall Dodge. Now let's take a look at the Winston Point standings coming to Phoenix. After one of 18 events of the 94 season, Casey Spurlock the leader, followed by Al Hoffman, Kenji Okazaki, Dean Scusa, and Cruz Pedregon in the top five. Al Hoffman made headlines in qualifying here at Phoenix. It was the final qualifying effort for the funny cars. Hoffman brought the Western Auto Slick 50 Dodge Daytona to the starting line. He covered the quarter mile in 5.12 seconds, not his best, but the speed and unreal 301.10 miles an hour.
Al Hoffman, you are now the fastest funny car driver in history at 300.10 miles per hour.
I kind of thought so. It was really trucking down there. I owe this to Tom Anderson, my whole crew, Western Auto, Slick 50, BDS. Everybody's worked so hard for this, and to finally, do that. I don't know what the ET was. It probably was ran 12. 12. Well, that's okay. We'll take it.
Good job.
In his excitement, Steve shortchanged Al by a mile an hour. It was 301.10. In the first round of racing, Hoffman came up against Del Worsham. Hoffman had qualified in the number 2 spot in a grade 5:09. But the young Del Worsham, at the age of 24, pulled off what many regard as one of the biggest upsets of the meet. He had qualified at a 5:40, light years away from the 5:09 of Hoffman, but in the race it didn't matter. 1.
Well, Al, unfortunately, what a difference a day can make.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't understand what happened there. It was on a good run. 300 foot out, he just fell over and quit running.
Nothing the driver can do about that.
No, I feel I made a good move. I don't know what the lights were, but I never seen him until it nosed over.
As Dell advanced into the second round, that gave him the opportunity to race the winner of the Dean Scusa-John Force confrontation. John, in his Castrol Chevy Lumina-bodied entry, had not had the best qualifying session. He had come in with the number 7 spot at a 5:14 and actually had lost lane choice when he defeated Dean Scusa with a 5:24 in the first round. Del Worship was out for John Force in round number 2. And he came oh so close to pulling it off.
Sideways at half track, on fire down here. That's the John Force we know and love.
Right, you got it. You see that there? That's a sign of the times, buddy. We ain't dead yet.
Flames in the paint job, flames out of the header. You came to rumble.
That's what Castro pays us for in Jolly Rancher, and she's making a little noise now. She's talking to Uncle Austin. That's what she's all about.
John Force was back on his game after that second round victory. The other 4 cars on this side of the ladder found the Winter Nationals champion Casey Spurlock defeating Jerry Caminito in the first round, while Dale Poldy took advantage of a troubled Gordy Bonnet in the first round to meet up with Casey Hollywood Spurlock. The Nashville, Tennessee resident had qualified very well in the number 3 spot at a 5:11. Baldy's qualifying position was number 6 at a 5:14. The Pisano brothers, carrying on in the tradition of the late Joe Pisano, had this car running very well. Casey Spurlock and the Fruit of the Loom activewear car had problems. Baldy won it.
Well, I'll tell you, that 5:15 put an end to a Hollywood script, I think.
Well, that's good. We're just trying to keep consistent here. It's working out for the best for us. We're missing a crew chief for the last couple races, so we're all kind of guessing at what we're doing. It's working out okay, though.
You're in a position to take out John Force next round.
Well, I hope so. That's what we're here for, I guess.
A smiling Dale Poldy as he anticipates the run against John Force. And as we slide our way over to the other side of the ladder, it was Jim Epler against Cruz Pedregon. And Pedregon, from his number 12 spot, pulled off an upset and took the win. A rejuvenated Tom Hoover in the Pioneer Electronics Dodge had qualified 5th at a 5:12. He defeated Richard Hartman in the first round, but lost the lane choice. He only ran a 5:22. Cruz Pedregon, from his number 12 spot, he qualified at a 5:35 and had a dramatic improvement to a 5:20 in his first round victory over Jim Epler. Here, Hoover smoked the tires and Pedregon took the win.
In the heat with a new motor, a 510. That was a shot.
Whoa, 510. We're happy, Steve. I'll tell you, we've been struggling all weekend. I got to hand it to Mike Green and the guys. They're doing an outstanding job. That just goes to show what kind of team we have here to battle back. We struggle, qualify 12th. We're extremely happy. Thank you.
Pedregon on the hunt for his second Winston Championship. He lost it last year to John Force. The other 4 cars on this side of the ladder, Chuck Etchels, the number 1 qualifier, easily disposed of Jack Wyatt, while Kenji Okazaki came from his number 8 spot to defeat Gary Bolger. Etchels ran 5:05 in qualifying, but slowed to a 5:13 in that first round race. On the other hand, Kenji Okazaki, his opponent here in round number 2, had qualified on 1 run at a 5:15, then blistered the asphalt at 5:05 in the first round win over Gary Bolger. Okazaki was ahead, but smoked the tires.
The good thing he smoked the tires, or I might be saying Kenji-san instead of Chucky-san.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he was out there. I mean, he was way out on me. I mean, I hit the throttle on this thing and did it yesterday to us. You know, we have a new crew chief. He's doing a great job, but we got a clutch deal that's a little weird on it.
Not responding?
No, not at all. It just laid there, didn't move. All of a sudden, it took off. I saw Kenji for a long ways. Then I see him smoke the tires. So, you know, just try and get the Kendall Super Winch Dodge to the semifinals. We're happy.
Whatever works.
And it worked for Chuck Etchels in that round number 2 race, but they had lots of work to get ready for the semifinals against Cruz Pedregon. The other half of our final 4 shows Dale Baldy holding the lane choice over John Force. That should be a great race. We'll be right back to Phoenix, Arizona and the Ford Quality Care Nationals. Back at Firebird International Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona. We're ready for the semifinal round of Funny Car Eliminator, and you are looking at Mike Green, the crew chief for Cruz Pedregon. You're inside the car now with Chuck Etchell, John Medlin and his crew chief, directing him into the proper spot on the starting line. The Kendall GT1 Super Winch Dodge in the far lane. The McDonald's Coca-Cola Oldsmobile here in the near lane. The lane choice going to Pedregon. A great 5:10 in round number 2. And just squeezing out the win. His elapsed time, 5:18, falling off just a bit at only 278 miles an hour. But Chuck Etchell's fell off a whole lot more. 5:20 his elapsed time, and the speed, 247 miles an hour. Let's watch this in replay and see if we can pick up what happened to Chuck Etchell, because his car slowed dramatically at the finish line. He was right alongside Pedregon until just about now. Something going wrong, and look at him just squirt past it. Cruz Pedregon won the race and goes to the finals. Steve?
Been a long time. In fact, you won this race 1 year ago, and you might do it again.
Yeah, Steve, I'll tell you, the McDonald's crew's doing an excellent job. It's tough out here. It's hot. Etchell's a great competitor, but, you know, we're in the final round, and, you know, hopefully we can win too with McDonald's teammate Corey Mack.
Speed fell way off, 270.
It was loose out there. I was steering it, but I didn't want to lift because Etchell's is always there.
Absolutely. Etchell's, by the way, lost a blower belt.
And that certainly answers the question why he slowed so dramatically in the last few feet of the racetrack. Austin Coyle, the crew chief for John Force, making a final check underneath that fiberglass Chevy Lumina body. Force proudly bearing the big number 1, indicating his Winston Championship title. Alongside of him is Dale Baldy, and believe it or not, Baldy has the lane choice. That may be a surprise to some folks, but not to those that follow West Coast drag racing, because Dale Baldy, along with the Pisano brothers, one of the toughest cars in competition. But today it is John Force, only a 5:37 at 289 miles an hour. Not the kind of performance that John would have expected or wanted, because what it does, it lets Cruz Pedregon pick the lane in the championship round. For the last couple of years, Cruz and John have duked it out in funny car racing, and it'll be that all over again here in Phoenix in the finals of the Ford Quality Care Nationals. Now to the far end, and Steve.
Just like old times. The Cruiser and the Force Man, all over the place is right. Maybe because it doesn't have enough power.
Boys, the boys will let me do anything. I might have to change lanes with old Cruz. Well, who got lane choice?
He does.
He did? Yeah, that's okay. She was all over, Steve. She was sliding and gripping. I saw center line. I saw Polly. I thought, this would be great to put this whole heap over the wall, but whatever. We're going.
You love it. You love it.
Yes, I do.
And so do we, John. We'll be right back to Firebird Raceway. At the Ford Quality Care Nationals at Firebird Raceway, it is time for the championship round of Pro Stock Eliminator. And for the first time in the modern era of Pro Stock racing, 2 Dodges are meeting in the championship round. Darrell Alderman, intently concentrating on the task at hand, has the lane choice. He's selected the lane nearest the camera. His teammate in the far lane is Scott Jeffreyon. As both drivers pointed out after their semifinal round wins, this is open competition. There's no holds barred between Jeffreyon and Alderman. The best man will be the winner. We've got cameras on board both of the Mopar cars. You're riding with Jeffreyon. Now you're with Alderman. Look at this, side by side. And at the finish line, it's just inches that separate the two, and Scott Jeffreyon has defeated Darrell Alderman. The times, don't look at your screen, listen to me, 7:11 for both drivers. Let's watch it again in replay. Scott Jeffreyon got oh so slight an advantage. Darrell Alderman tried to keep pace, and he did. As you saw on our in-car camera during the run, it was side-by-side racing all the way to the finish line until Scott Jeffreyon crossed it first. The margin of victory, 0.06 of a second. So Scott Jeffreyon is upset the #1 qualifier to win Pro Stock.
Scott Jeffrey on down here in the dirt, but who cares, buddy? You won it.
Oh, it didn't matter. It was a tight drag race down through there, and they don't come any better in this business. I've tried to do a lot of things out here in drag racing as far as driving, and I've styled a lot of my driving after the guy who just happens to be my teammate. I consider him and Lee Shepard to be the best that there ever was in this game.
You done dodged him to death.
Well, I don't know what happened. It was all for the guys at Wayne County, all these Mopar fans. I wanted to do it for my dad. He's been down in the dumps a little bit lately, and he knows I love him. And I'll tell you what, I had a dear friend here pass away in Phoenix about 2 months ago, and his name was Mr. Tom Demby, and this one's for Tom. I told him I was going to do it for Tom.
You both ran 7-11. You must have left first.
Well, that's all that counts.
What counts is who gets to the finish line first, and Scott Jeffreyon did. That moved him into third in the Winston points chase. Led now, but Darrell Alderman, Warren Johnson only 2 points behind. Kurt Johnson in fourth, Jim Yates, number 5. Scott Jeffreyon celebrating with Darrell Alderman his second national event win. Our funny car finalists fired and backing up after their long smoky burnout. Mike Green directing traffic for the driver of the McDonald's Oldsmobile, Cruz Pedregon. Alongside of him, Austin Coyle is doing identically the same for the reigning Winston champ, John Force, at the wheel of the Castrol GTX Chevy Lumina. A quick check under the body. Austin Coyle making a very slight adjustment. He says to John, everything's okay. A crewman checking out the back end of the Pedregon-driven Oldsmobile. As it has been last season and the year before, John Force and Cruz Pedregon duking it out in a quarter mile of NHRA Winston Championship drag racing. The lane choice here to Cruz Pedregon, a substantial difference on paper. 5:18 to a 5:37. Those times coming from the semifinal round of racing. And John Force just squeezes past to take the win. Force elapsed time 5:18. Pedregon losing at a 5:19 and slowing dramatically at the finish line. Maybe something going wrong, but nothing went wrong for John Force on this run. A 5:18, his best of the weekend. And look at the side-by-side competition that has evolved in this Funny Car Championship round. A puff of smoke or two out of the McDonald's car. That was the problem. Look at Force, 5:18 in the victory. Steve.
John, it looked like he might have had you until he overcooked the burger.
Out the window. You wouldn't believe it. Please, hump you old Chevy run. I couldn't even believe it, man. That was close. I ain't felt this good since Dallas. Hey, all my people, we know Castrol, Jolly Rancher, the Dorman people, the Wax Shop people, Fram, Autolite. This old Chevrolet here, she really an Oldsmobile. Nobody knows her. But I love
They do now.
We're happy. Fans, 1-800-RACE team. Don't forget, call us.
When he comes out of his shell, he's going to be something, huh?
Sorry that the man doesn't get emotional for you, folks, but John Force has just moved into the top 5 in the Winston point standings after 2 of 18 events. Still led by Casey Spurlock. The Cruiser is second. Al Hoffman fourth, and Kenji Okazaki rounds out the top 5. As John Force continues to celebrate, we're getting ready for the finals in Top Fuel. Don't go away. What a race remains. The Top Fuel final here in the Ford Quality Care Nationals at Firebird Raceway. That's Joe Amato in a long, hard, smoky burnout. Next is Corey McLenithan. The crew is holding him up, now bringing him into the water box. He'll hit the throttle and watch this. The tires getting so hot they actually smoke, but now they are up to operating temperature. 17 inches of Goodyear rubber planted on that pavement, and both of these racers with more than 5,000 horsepower at their command need every bit of traction they can get. Jimmy Prock directing Joe Amato back into the tracks that he left after the burnout. In the other lane, it is Lee Beard performing the same chore for this man, Corey McLenithan, who 1 round to go set the quickest elapsed time in drag racing history at 4.742. That is the new national record. These are the 2 quickest Top Fuel racers in the country today, and you could not ask for a better final. The number 1 qualifier, McLenithan, against the number 2 qualifier, Joe Amato. It's all over for the crew chiefs now. All they can do is give a nod of approval and a thumbs up to their drivers. Lee Beard to the far lane, Jimmy Brock in the near lane. And now it is up to Corey Mack and Joe Amato to decide who will be the Top Fuel champion of this Ford Quality Care Nationals. Smokes the tires. Corey Mack has won his first championship at the wheel of the McDonald's dragster. His elapsed time a relatively slow 498 at only 268 miles an hour, but he would say, who cares about the time? He's got the win. In the near lane, Joe Amato up in smoke, and Corey Mack streaks to the finish line for the championship title. What an impressive performance this entire weekend by Corey McClenathan, from his domination of qualifying to this, his victory in Top Fuel Eliminator. Corey Mack, certainly the force to be reckoned with in Top Fuel Eliminator. Steve?
Such a good day.
It is such a good day.
I don't know what to say. I wanted this one in a big way. Everybody knows that. And Lee Beard and the crew, Larry Miner, and my parents and everybody, thanks so much. And this one is for Neil Bonnet. He'll always be remembered.
Can't add to that.
An absolutely emotional Corey McClenathan winning the Top Fuel title. The victory by Corey Mack moves him into the lead in the Winston point standings, followed by Joe Amato. 2 weeks ago, Shelly Anderson was the leader. She went out first round. She's dropped to third. Rance McDaniel fourth. Pat Austin number 5. Don't miss the two-wheel tears, the Pro Stock Motorcycles of NHRA all season long on ESPN2, the Suzuki Pro Bike Challenge. The 1994 NHRA Ford Quality Care Nationals has been brought to you by Budweiser, proud sponsors of America's Olympic team. I think you'll agree this has been one incredible drag race, and we hope that you have enjoyed our same-day coverage. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan. We're saying so long from Firebird Raceway near Phoenix. Coverage of the NHRA Ford Quality Care Nationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports in association with ESPN.